Greetings from Los Angeles, California. I'm Dr. Alex Parsinia, and welcome to our course in leadership. What I'd like to talk about today is leadership and change. What we've all have experienced is that in today's global economy and global environment, the only thing that is staying constant is the change itself. But otherwise, everything is really changing quite rapidly, and as a result, what basically we're looking at is a very dynamic environment. and due to the fact that the global market, the economic situation, the political, legal, sociocultural issues are changing rapidly in our environment, then most companies, what they need to do is to get ready and really become more adaptive in terms of their internal processes, in terms of their strategy, structure, systems, culture, and so forth, and particularly the leadership, so that they can adapt to these rapid changes that are occurring in their environment. What we're experiencing also in terms of the change process is really the pace of change, because before, relatively, most companies were operating in a more stable environment. But these days, due to changes in technology, telecommunications, political, social, economic, technological situations, the pace of change have become quite rapid. Now, so as a result, what are the implications for companies? The key issue is it really goes back to leadership. There are leaders that they're visionary, they can incorporate these changes in terms of their strategies, in terms of their systems, in terms of their culture, in terms of their technology and so forth. And there are companies that they still feel like they're operating in a stable environment, and they're not ready for these changes. When a company is not ready for these rapid changes, they're going to get hit like by a hurricane. And before they know it, they realize that they've lost their strategic advantage, they've lost their customer base, their sales are rapidly dwindling, and as a result, they're going to be in trouble. Whereas companies where the leadership has the vision, they have the strategy, they have the perspective to anticipate change, and as a result modify their internal processes, particularly if you look at the model on page 564, the components of organizational alignment. It's a very good model, because essentially what this model tells you, that's figure 14.1, that in today's dynamic environment, companies needs to align themselves. In other words, they have to become congruent with changes that are occurring in their environment. Now, the keys, of course, as you see on the top, is the vision. That basically companies, as a result of the leadership, and of course the vision, overall vision, comes from leadership, and through that issue, they're essentially modify their strategic goals so that they can anticipate these changes and align themselves and be ready for these changes. Now, the other attributes, as you see, one is culture. Culture is very critical, because companies that are they have adaptive culture, they would anticipate change, and they have the flexibility to realign themselves so they can become more congruent, and they can basically become more fluid internally, so they can change. But on the other hand, if you have a very rigid culture, and some companies do that, they do have rigid cultures, then they're going to have a trouble to go through a lot of these changes, and that's where you see a lot of resistance to change. In other words, if the company's culture is basically, they have one of their attributes is this resistance toward change, they're going to have a heck of a time to become adaptive in that perspective. Uh, Again, part of that culture is the shared values. In other words, what kind of shared value do you have? Do you have a flexible attitude, or do you have a very rigid shared value when it comes to change? And of course, based on our discussion, you want to have, particularly in today's environment where things are changing quite rapidly, you want to have that flexibility in your culture. The other issue is really the structure of companies. Again, if your structure is highly bureaucratic, highly rigid, that's going to also affect your ability to anticipate and make the rapid changes. On the other hand, if your internal organization is more fluid, of course, this would help quite a bit. This is the same true regarding the systems, your internal system, your operation system, your production system, as well as your capabilities, both in terms of technical as well as leadership. So to conclude, essentially, companies which are quite profitable and quite effective and efficient on a long-term basis are the ones that they have the capability to align themselves with the changes that occurs in their external environment. Thank you very much.